Biblical Archaeology 4. Quote, Dr. A. Stanley discovered 6 ancient, Aramaic inscriptions on the cliffs of the Wadi Sidri in the peninsula of Sinai. The inscriptions recorded the historical crossing of the Red Sea. The Bible records the history of the relationship between God and the children of Abraham. Archaeology confirms many of the historical details mentioned in the Bible. In this video series, we discuss various examples. An ancient pillar was discovered during an expedition in Saudi Arabia, opposite the Egyptian border near the Red Sea, that scholars conclude was constructed by the Israelites to memorialize the Exodus. Even with thousands of years of weathering, the words Egypt, death, and Pharaoh can still be discerned. In 1853, Dr. A. Stanley discovered 6 ancient, Aramaic inscriptions on the cliffs of the Wadi Sidri in the peninsula of Sinai. The inscriptions recorded the historical crossing of the Red Sea. Here is an excerpt from the Aramaic inscriptions. A. Stanley, Sinai and Palestine, London, John Murray, 1905, page 70. The leader divided the sea, its waves roaring. The people enter, and pass through the midst of the waters. The wind blowing, the sea dividing into parts, they pass over. The Hebrews flee through the sea is turned into dry land. Their enemies weep for the dead, the virgins are wailing. The sea flowing down overwhelmed them. The waters were let loose to flow again. Patterns of evidence, Exodus. Who was the Pharaoh of Egypt at the time of the Exodus? It wasn't Ramses II. Artapanus, a Jewish historian, wrote a history of the Jews, placed in the Alexandrian library, for the Ptolemies, Greek pharaohs. Scholars contemporary to him quoted from his history of the Jews. He wrote that the pharaoh that raised Moses was Ki-Naf-Res, in Greek, or Ka-Nefer-Re, Egyptian. This refers to Khenefer-Sobahotep IV, who was the most powerful pharaoh of the 13th dynasty, the 29th ruler of that dynasty. Approximately 45 years after this was the pharaoh Dudimos, virtually the last king of the 13th dynasty, who would be the pharaoh at the time of the Exodus, not Ramses II. Manetho was an Egyptian priest who wrote a history of the Egyptians, as quoted in Josephus, where he wrote, Tu Timaeus, Dudimos, in his reign, for what cause I know not, a blast of God smote us, i.e. the Egyptians. Notice God here is in the singular, as opposed to the gods. This is odd for an Egyptian record. He continues, and unexpectedly, from the regions of the east, invaders of obscure race marched in confidence of victory against our land. By main force they easily seized it, without striking a blow, and having overpowered the rulers of the land, they then burned our cities ruthlessly, razed to the ground the temples of the gods, and treated all the natives with cruel hostility, massacring some and leading into slavery the wives and children of others. Notice he writes of the gods in that last portion. Clearly a distinction is made between God and the gods. After the Exodus, the invaders, the Hyksos, mentioned above, were able to easily conquer Egypt, as the Egyptian army had been destroyed in the Red Sea. The Exodus Decoded, documentary by James Cameron. The Ahmose stele is currently in the basement of the Cairo Museum. It matches details found in the Book of Exodus. Ahmose, also called Dudimos, the brother of Moses, was likely Pharaoh at the time of the Exodus. Yaakov, Joseph's father Jacob, was mentioned on 9 Egyptian royal seals at Avaris, in northern Egypt, at one time the home of the Hyksos. Ipuwer Plagues Papyrus states that Egypt was struck by a strange hail made of ice and fire mingled together. Mass graves in Egypt date to the time of the Exodus. The first, lower in the strata, contains men, women, and children. The second, slightly higher in the strata, contains only males. The mummy of the son of Ahmose, Prince Seper, is located in the Cairo Museum. The details show he was only 12 years old at the time of death. Conclusion. Many historical details from the Bible have been confirmed by archaeology. And there is no biblical narrative that has been falsified by archaeology. The Bible can be trusted as a collection of historical documents. Thanks to Michael Moat for compiling this information. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.